Alright, let's go ahead and start. Welcome back to Return of the Obra Dinn. This is our third installment of the game. I'm going to go ahead and let the theme music play again because I do love it very much. Last time we watched through the events of Chapter 7 out of 10. We've now seen Chapter 10, starting from... the first thing we saw was the end of the story. And then we got to see some of Chapter 7. Well, we saw all of Chapter 7. And now, when we go back in, we will see what lies in store. So let's go ahead and load up our save. So just as a quick recap, the events of Chapter 7, The Doom, start with, well, it starts at the very beginning of the chapter, which is not the first thing that we saw. The first thing we saw was actually the end of the chapter, Part 8, and then we walked backwards through each scene. So in Part 8, Abigail Hoskett-Witterell, the captain's wife, who was a passenger aboard the Obra Dinn, was crushed by a falling beam from the rigging. However, this happened to her because a kraken had been attacking the ship. And as we worked backwards through time, we saw various other crew members die, almost none of whom we could put names to. All the way back to Part 2, the first death of the chapter was Edward Spratt, the artist on board, who is responsible for these sketches that have been helping us put names to all of the faces. And in Part 1, right before that, right as the attack was about to start, we saw that 3 crew members, somebody we've identified as being a brother, one of 2 brothers on the ship, either Nathan or Samuel Peters, as well as another 2 crew members, were trying to escape the ship on a lifeboat. And a 4th crew member, who was identified in the scene as being Danish, which put his name as Lars Linde, the only Danish crew member, wanted to get on board with them, but was clubbed for his efforts and killed. And did not escape with them. We don't know the fate of those 3 men. Actually, no, wait, we do. We do. In one of the scenes, we saw in the background their boat getting thrown overboard. So this is the Peters brother. It's an unknown soul, but we can say that he drowned. Oh, was drowned by. This is a fate with a culprit. Drowned by beast, I guess. And so was this guy. And so was this guy. There are 4 other individuals who will need to figure out what happened to them in that chapter, but since we don't know their names, I'm not too concerned. So now we've sort of left the linear sequence that we were presented at the beginning. And it's time to just explore the ship some more. So I've come down from the top deck to the gun deck. We have the cannon, some of which are, in their places, facing out the windows. Some of which are overturned because of the accident of the Doom. Interestingly, because they're still there with the bodies underneath, that sort of I feel like that implies to me that nothing happened aboard the Obra Dinn after that. Like, they didn't fix it. They didn't pick anything up. They just sort of left all the cannons there. Let's see, I'm walking further. Let's see, let me look at my deck map here. So I'm about midship now. I'm walking past the cannons toward the back of the ship. And I'm seeing that there's a knife on the floor. And some blood stains. Leading into one of the cabins. Let me see whose room this is. This is the midshipman's cabin. What is in here? Oh, there's a skeleton in here. Oh no. Oh no. Somebody died in here. Let's look at this death scene. 9 and 6.
Oh no. You're cut.
Don't leave me.
Bear up, son. I'll stay with you.
Tell Pete's mother I tried my best.
Aye.
To pull him back, to save him.
You tell her yourself. Brennan! Bring the surgeon's kit!
Alright, so we have a crew member in a dark uniform on the floor, bleeding out. Over him is crouching the man we know as the first mate, the Scottish William Hoskett. No one else is in the room, which has 2 bunk beds and a hanging cot as well. Outside we see an incredibly, there's just a lot of blood trailing back to this room from the rear stairwell up to the top deck. On the stairs is the crew member we later see with carrying a knife in his teeth during the last mutiny. And the crew member with the knit cap has his hand to his ear as if he's listening. On the floor there are 2 other dead bodies, neither of whom are immediately identifiable. We can't get up the stairs past the knife teeth man, so it's just these. Just these bodies to look at. Chapter 9, Escape. Part 6, in the midshipman's cabin. Who is this? How did they die? So I'm going to go ahead and look at the transcript here. As expected, the person who was not Scottish, who was speaking, is the deceased. "Don't leave me," he says. "Tell Pete's mother I tried my best to pull him back to save him." So whoever this is, it's not Pete. The game is telling us that we do not know who it is. I'm going to make the... Oh. This person's face appears blurred throughout the book. This blurring indicates that you don't yet have sufficient information to determine their identity. Their fate may be known and can be entered now. Trying to name them while their face is blurred would be unproductive. Carry on and pay attention. Faces will become unblurred when the information necessary to identify them has been revealed in some way. Okay, so the game has just chided me for attempting to look for a name for this man. I was going to make the hypothesis that this was a midshipman, considering that he crawled into the midshipman's cabin, but I will refrain from making that guess. Do we know how he died? I'm going back into the scene. I'm going to look at his body again. I see lots of blood, but I don't see the wound. And bled to death is not, I don't think. Burned, clawed, clubbed. No. So we'll need to, probably in an earlier scene, because this is the end of the chapter, we'll see what the wound actually was. Now, we also have Knife Teeth in the scene on the stairs, and Knit Cap with his hand to his ear. And in the portrait, Knife Teeth's man, nope, Knit Hat Man has his portrait is clear now, which makes me believe that the game is telling us he has his hand to his ear, as if he's being called for in this scene. And First Mate Hoskett has called out to Brennan. So I'm guessing that means this is Brennan. So I'm going to look in the list for somebody named Brennan. If you want to look at the list with me and you're using, and you cannot see the screen, I do have a screen reader accessible version on Google Sheets. I will pop the link here in the chat, and on YouTube I'll have it in the video description. Okay, I see Brennan. He is crew member number 56. He is a seaman from England. Ah, correct. Well done. 3 more fates correct. Henry Brennan was knifed by Captain Robert Witterell. That's in the end. Edward Spratt was crushed by a terrible beast. And Roderick Anderson, third mate's steward, was crushed by a loose cannon. Fates 4, 5, and 6 correct. All right. So we were right about the third mate steward. That is super good to know. All right. The book has now flipped us everywhere. Let me get back to this page. Okay, so that's Brennan. We actually know that for sure now. We don't know who the guy on the stairs is, but we do have Shaky Watch, which is telling us that one of these bodies on the floor out here by the stairwell is somebody that we need to look at. Clearly. So there's 2 bodies, both lying in pools of... Well, no, one of them's lying in a pool of blood. One's just crumpled on the ground. One closer to the stairwell, one further away. And the one closer is the one we're looking at. So this is going to pop us back out into the present, where from the midshipman's cabin, we're going to open this door, follow this smoke trail. There we go. Nine, 5.
What's all this, you damn fool?
Okay, so we have a man being clubbed by Henry Brennan, the crew member with the knit hat. The other body is already lying on the ground in a pool of blood. The blood trail back to the midshipman's cabin is already there with the knifed midshipman. We can see a knife sticking out of his back, is crawling away, leaving this enormous blood trail behind him. First mate is running down the stairs, and his attention is turned to the crawling midshipman rather than to the other side where Brennan is clubbing somebody. We still can't get up the stairs onto the top deck. And Knife Teeth Man is nowhere in sight above. Chapter 9, Part 5. Who is this? How did they die? This person is blurry, so we don't know who they are. And of the 3 others present, we know Brennan. We just identified him, a crew member who actually lives till the end of the story. And we've identified first mate William Hoskett, and we don't know the midshipman who's about to die. We do know now that the midshipman died by knife. We don't know who knifed him. We do know that it was a knife. And we don't know the name of this person, although in the portrait he does seem to be wearing a high-ranking uniform. He might be an officer, would be my guess. He has a bicorn hat that's sort of like a taco sitting on his head, is really the way it looks, with the one end pointing forward. And he has been clubbed by Henry Brennan. What's all this, you damn fool? The only line spoken in the scene. Assumedly, that line has been spoken by Brennan. And we have Shaky Watch. We're probably looking at the other body here. Yes. This body, notably, seems to have its face missing, like it's been exploded. Alright, back in the present. We need the little cloud to illuminate this body. There we go. Notably, whoever this was had a hat, and the hat, which is several feet away from the body by the wall, was reconstructed with the corpse in the fog. So there's this body and its pool of blood, and several feet away the hat have all been reconstructed. All together. 9-4.
Captain cannot be trusted.
You have a plan?
Yes. Take ship and sail east. Trade wretched fish and shells for gold. Hey, who's there?
Mutiny! Mutiny!
Fresh bastard.
No!
Alright, we see two men locked in a straw. One is gripping the other's head, and they both have their hands on a pistol, which is just fired. Seems to have accidentally fired into the chin of one of the men, blowing his face completely off. Elsewhere in the scene, we see the midshipman, who presumably is the person who cried mutiny, has a knife in his back and is crawling away. At the top of the stairs nearby, we see that Brennan, standing at the top of the stairs, has been alerted to the sound of the call of mutiny and the gunshot, and standing a few paces behind him is First Mate Hoskett, also on alert. Since we can now access the top deck, we see that there are other people up here. The captain is standing on the top, looking over the railing with a resigned expression. There were other people too, but I didn't see them before the timeout. Who is this? How did they die? Part 4. So, in the transcript, the person who dies here, who gets his face blown off, is the one saying, "Enough, captain cannot be trusted. We take ship and sail east, trade wretched fish and shells for gold." And then, "Mutiny, mutiny," and this person says, "Fresh bastard." So we don't know who this is, but we do know that he was definitely plotting a mutiny with the other guy. The one who's just about to get clubbed by Brennan for being a mutineer. So, this guy also looks like he's probably an officer. And I'm saying that just because he's wearing a hat. This is a different type of hat. It is a round, tall cap rather than a taco hat. Alright, so I'm back in the scene. The captain is leaning over the railing of the top part of the deck, sort of with his head in his hands. Nearby, on the... Let's see, this is the stern of the ship. So on the left side of the top deck, a Knife Teeth, okay, a bald crew member, Knife Teeth, is throwing a body over the side of the ship. A body we are not familiar with. And there's a ton of blood on the ground. There's a sword on the ground up here. And we have shaky watch, which means we must be intended to look at that body. Going back downstairs for a moment. So our midshipman is crawling away. Still no indication of whose knife it is. Also don't know whose gun this is. Because both men are holding on to it. I'm gonna guess they were trying to struggle for control of it. I also see that there's a blood trail leading into the far back room. So maybe the midshipman was knifed. No, because the midshipman's blood trail stops where the scuffle is happening. There's another blood trail all the way into the back. A little lighter. So that's curious. I don't know what that's from. Alright, let me satisfy the shaky watch. Let's go look at the body that's being dumped overboard. And because we have been allowed to go up the rear stairs in a scene, we can now go up the rear stairs in real life. So we now have both entrances to the gun deck from the top deck are open. Alright, who's this poor soul? 9-3.
Let them go!
Okay, so we have a crew member about to leap onto the railing of the ship, who has just been shot through the chest from the front, because over the railing is a lifeboat with several people in it, one of whom is a woman holding a shotgun, who has just shot him. This crew member is holding in his right hand a sword. Hoskett and Brennan are running up the stairs towards the top deck at this point, sort of running to intercept him, but the woman with the gun got him first. On the other side, the captain is pointing his pistol but hasn't fired it at this crew member. And on the floor, somebody wearing a dark uniform is lying dead next to a sword. Part 3, on the stern deck. Who is this? How did they die? We don't know who this is, and the game knows that we don't know who this is. 11 others were present. There are a lot of people in this scene. So he's here, Knife Teeth is here. The two women who are not Abigail are both here. Brennan is here. First Mate Hoskett is here. The captain is here. The midshipmen and the mutineers are in this scene, so they must be downstairs. So, which means we must be able to go look at them. Let's see, let me check the transcript. Okay, the only line is "let them go," which is not spoken by the deceased. I'm gonna guess that's spoken by the captain. I don't remember his voice particularly, but I'm pretty sure that's the captain's voice. So this unknown soul was shot with a gun by one of the passengers, by an unknown passenger. I don't know whether this is number 21, Emily Jackson, Or number 22, Miss Jane Bird. We have shaky watch again because there's another body on the deck here. But I'm gonna go look downstairs. Oh, I missed. Knife Teeth is climbing down from the rigging on the right side of the ship, the other side of the ship, on his way over. Let's go look downstairs. What's happening down here? Aha! We see whose knife it was. This is seconds before the next scene. The midshipman is running away from the back room, stumbling. The man with the round hat is pursuing him with a knife, like literally seconds away from stabbing him. So the culprit in that death is the man with the round hat. We'll have to keep that in mind because we don't know his name yet. We can't pin it on him. He is also the man with the gun. We can see it attached to his back. And his conspirator with the, who wears a taco hat. He's not wearing it right now. He's sitting in the back room. Again, there's still this mysterious blood trail that sort of leads into there seemingly from nowhere. Alright, back up top. Who is this on the floor? Looking at this body, 9-2.
Last one. Move quick.
You'll not take the last push!
Alright, so we have two men, both holding swords, one of whom has just been stabbed through the chest, who is the man who's about to die. The other is the man with the striped shirt that we saw in the next scene who gets shot. So he's stabbed this man. Over the side, we see the woman who's about to shoot the gun is standing, hasn't descended into the boat yet, is standing on the stairs, reaching out, trying to give a warning. A man with a vest and a tie is standing in the boat, as is the other woman passenger. Elsewhere in this scene, the first mate, William Hoskett, and Seaman Brennan are running in from the obscured other side of the main deck, hearing this sword fight going on, and the captain is standing on the other side, raising his gun in the air. Chapter 9, Part 2. On the stern deck. Who is this? Now, this person's face is cleared up. So, in the transcript, we have Paul, look out, which means this is Paul. Paul in the transcript is the one who says, last one, move quick. And then someone says, oh, you'll not take the last boat. Someone says, Paul, look out. Someone else says, stop, let them go. And then Paul's last word is, damn. So, who is Paul? Who in here has the first name of Paul? I see a Paul Moss, number 29. He's the only Paul. All right, so this is Paul Moss, number 29, the first mate's steward from Wales. And he was killed, parenthesis, sword, by that guy, who we don't know who his name is. Everyone else is also here. We could probably go downstairs and see what's happening down there. We have shaky watch again. I don't know what dead body is here. So on the top deck, the captain is pointing his gun in the air. Knife Teeth is climbing up from the rigging. Hoskett and Brennan are sprinting over. These poor guys are just running around the entire ship during this sequence. Just crisis here, crisis there. Somebody's clubbing somebody, somebody's shooting somebody. Knives, guns, clubs. Oh, downstairs. Okay. So we see this is before the mutiny is discovered. Our midshipman is listening in at the door of the back room. This must be an eating room or a meeting room or something like that. There's an open space at the back of the ship, sort of equivalent to where the captain's cabin would be. On the top deck, it has 2 long tables in the middle, and drawers, hanging barrels, a couple of chests, tables and a desk, etc. around the sides. On one of the tables is sitting our round hat man, and near him is sitting the other mutineer. And in a chair by the windows is slumped over the form of somebody we haven't seen before in this sequence, whose left arm is missing, and he is blood running from that all over his body, which seems to be the source of the blood trail leading out back to the main deck. This, I'm gonna guess, is the body that Shaky Watch. Yeah, this is what we're meant to see here. Alright, our cloud is going to lead us downstairs. It had to take a very dramatic turn up into the air before plunging down the stairwell. I almost walked into a door frame there. Alright, we have this body. Chapter 9, Part 1.
Put me down. Let go.
Easy now. You're in a bad way.
Is the squid? Where is my Frenchman?
The squid's gone. Your mate was torn apart.
That. The beast is dead. How? How did you kill it?
We didn't. It left with the storm. Captain came up from the hold. Said he chased it off. You should rest.
A curse like that does not live for nothing.
Alright, this man is sitting in the chair in the exact same position we see him in the next scene. He is slumped over the side, his right arm is hanging over the armrest of the chair with his head on his shoulder, the stump of his left arm pointed upward in the air, blood running all the way from it. The 2 men he's speaking to are sitting. Round Hat Man is sitting on the bench of the table, and the other man is kneeling on the floor. We can see the blood trail outside, and we see the midshipman, who's about to listen in, is coming up from the deck below, opening the stairwell hatch to down there. The captain, we can see his back, is on his way, walking up to the top deck. We can't get past him. In the officer's mess. Okay, that's what this is. The mess. Who is this? How did they die? Now, we do have some very compelling clues from the transcript here. I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at it. So this man is the one saying, "Put me down, let go." He says, "Where is my Frenchman?" And then the other man responds, "Your mate was torn apart." So whoever this man is, he's high enough rank to have a mate who is French. And then he says verdammt, which is a German word meaning damn it, basically. So he's somebody who speaks German who has a French mate, which should be pretty unique among this crew. I'm gonna go ahead and look here. The game has ranked this as a 2-star deduction, so not the easiest. Just gonna look through and see how many French individuals there are on board. Only one, in fact. The only Frenchman on board is crewman number 7, Charles Minor, the bosun's mate. And crewman number 6, Alfred Clastil, the bosun, is from Austria, which is a German-speaking country. So this must be Alfred the bosun. Bosun standing for, or being a shortening of boatswain. Let me look at the glossary here. Bosun. The foreman in charge of general crew operations and the equipment required to sail the ship. So that's who we're dealing with here. And the bosun seems to have had his arm torn off by the Kraken. That is the inference I am making here. I don't know of any other way he would have had his arm torn off like that. So I'm going to say Alfred Clastil was torn apart by a terrible beast. I don't really see a better option for bled out because his arm was torn off. I'm going to just say torn apart. So in this scene, yeah, we don't have everyone from the top deck in here. We just have Mr. Alfred here. We have the mutineers, soon-to-be mutineers. We have the first mate, Hoskett, is around somewhere. The midshipman who's coming up from below, and the captain who's going up to the top deck. Or is that Hoskett? No, it is the captain. Where's Hoskett? How was he in this scene? Oh, Hoskett is coming out of one of the rooms. He's coming out of his room. He's opening the door to the first mate's room. How about that? And finally, we do not have another corpse to look at, so we can actually go out the door. We're gonna finish chapter 9. Six deaths, 4 disappearances. The disappearances are the 2 women, the man with the vest and tie, and another crew member who I don't remember seeing. I'm gonna guess those are the ones who got away on the lifeboat, so they must have actually escaped. Let me see if I can put in alive for these people. This unknown soul is alive. Oh, I have to pick a location that they're alive. Well, I don't know that. So our options here are Africa, Atlantic Island, Azores, Canary Islands, Cape Verde, East Indies, Europe, Middle East, United Kingdom, or West Indies. That's a lot of options. Some very broad, like Africa, and some very specific, like Cape Verde. So no help there. I guess I just leave them all unknown. The 2 women here are marked as a 3-star deduction that I could tell them apart. Somehow. I don't know how. So I won't. Let's see. So where else can we go? So the first mate's door is open because he opened it. And the door to below deck is open. Well, the first mate's door has opened, so that must be something. Let me check out the mate's cabins. What's in his neighbor's room? He's got a bunk bed with a desk underneath. His chair's tipped over. He's got a chest that's locked, a little wash basin, little mirror, little hanger. It's a very homey little room. It's about, 3 square feet, but if you had to live on a ship, I guess that wouldn't be the worst. You see across the hall. I don't know whose room this is. This is the 4th mate's room. He doesn't have a full bunk. He only has a swinging sort of hammock bed. Also a chest, a chair, a couple of bookshelves, a stool by the window. This is the 2nd mate's. He has not a bunk bed, just a regular bed with sort of like the second, the bottom half of a bunk bed, and on top are some shelves and cabinets. He has some barrels in here, some folded up sacks, I guess, with clothes on top. The reason it's hard to tell because of the style of this game. A lot of environmental objects are just sort of polygonal objects with outlines, so I'm not sure whether these are meant to be clothes or sheets or something else folded up. A little hard to say. And then the 1st mate's room, well, the obvious thing I'm noticing is that there are some flies outside the window. But he has another lower half bunk bed. He has a wash basin with a cabinet. He has drawers above his bed, cubby holes with some folded up clothes in them. He has a trunk. He's got a little desk with a candlestick that's tipped over. Is that candle burning? No, I think that's the swaying of the ship. The wick of the candle is like going in and out by several pixels every time the ship moves, and it makes it look like it's flickering. That would be extremely bad if there was a lit candle down here that was just lighting the ship on fire. Sorry, we can't solve the mystery of the Obra Dinn. The ship caught fire. Anyway. So outside the window there is there's a bone. It looks to be hanging from a rope, and it's got some flies around it. So let's see what's up with this bone. 3-3 is where we've rewinded to.
Go back there! Here. Captain!
Slack the lifts and lower the boats! The whole crew will be on us!
Give it up!
We have a man who's just been shot. He is standing on the railing of the right stern of the boat. He's been shot by a man with a pistol who is holding a woman sort of hostage in front of him. Beside this man on the railing of the upper part of the deck is a different crew member. Behind him, on the other side of the stern deck, are 2 other crew members manhandling someone down into a lifeboat and looking on at the shooting that's taking place. Further down, there's someone who's been stabbed in the leg near the helm. Someone is laying on the floor, sort of cowering. And someone else is sort of kneeling, looking in fear. Chapter 3, Murder. Part 3, Scene outside the first mate's window. Happened on the main deck. Who is this? How did they die? Well, this man was shot with a gun. You know that much. In the transcript, he says nothing until the last line, give it up. That's the line this guy says. We have, on your toes, boys. Load her up, we best push off. Over here. It doesn't identify how many other speakers there are. Some of these lines are subtitled in traditional Chinese, which means that the woman here is probably our Taiwanese or Formosan lady. We don't know what her name is, but yeah, we can see in the portrait that is her, the only woman among the Formosans. The man holding her hostage, our culprit here, is a man with a taco hat in the portrait. He's not wearing it here, which means he's probably an officer. The man beside him is in the firing line in the portrait. On the other side of the ship, we have another one of the Formosans, the other royal, it looks like, the man who is seated in their sketch. One of the men playing cards in the sketch is manhandling him over the side, and a man in a dark sort of serving uniform is standing near him looking on. Down near the helm, we have a man with a spear stuck in his leg. I'm just, this man, he's near the helm here. He's near the helm in the portrait. His face is unblurred. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that this is the helmsman. He's always here. I've seen him here like 3 times now. And there's only one of them on the crew list. There's only one person with the rank helmsman. That is number 17, Finley Dalton. I don't know what happens to him, but I'm gonna say that's who this is. Poor guy's just gotten stabbed in the leg. But he's not the death here, so he must survive it. The individual who gets blasted by the explosion later in the story is on the floor, sort of cowering. His face is unblurred with a 2-star deduction. And further away, the man we know who is Lars, our Danish crew member, is kneeling by the midship sort of mechanisms, the sail raising and lowering mechanisms, kneeling and looking away. I'm gonna guess he may have been threatened to do that. Because this is not a ship-sanctioned action happening here. It seems to be the middle of the night. There's definitely some sort of hostage situation going on. It's not great. And we have another body in this scene to look at. Whomst? Oh, this must be right after the hanging. The hanging that we see in the crew sketch. That body is here, hanging on its rope. Morbid. Alright, so we're still down in the first mate's cabin, so we actually have to go back upstairs in real life. Or in the present day. Is this real life? Who could say? This cloud is taking its leisurely time, making a big loop-de-loop. And now illustrating this hanging form with a rope that dissipates into nothingness, into the sky.
Hok Seng Lao, you have been found guilty by self-confession of the murder of Nunzio Pasqua.
Quiet.
As captain of this ship, and by the authority of the East India Company, and thus the Crown of England, I sentence you to death by firing line. Mr. Wolf, when you are ready.
Right, sir. Ready, men. Aim. Fire.
Oh my goodness, there's so much information in that scene. Alright, so we're looking at this body. We see gunshots, 4 gunshots that have fired towards it. Only one has actually hit. We follow that bullet trail back to Henry Brennan in the firing line. The other 4 men managed to miss just a little bit. We are standing in the scene depicted by the second sketch, with crew members standing all around looking on at this execution. In the back, we can see our artist, Edward Spratt, sitting where we would expect the perspective to be, looking on. A Chinese woman, well, a Formosan woman is being held back by her fellow royal and her guard. It seems that the 4th guard is the one being executed, and everyone is looking on with varying reactions. Chapter 3, Part 2. Who is this? How did they die? Alright, so let's take a look at this transcript. This is quite a lot of information here. So we have Hok Seng Lao, you have been found guilty by self-confession of the murder of Nunzio Pasqua. So the man being executed, who is this? This is Hok Seng Lao, passenger from Formosa. How did he die? Well, he was executed. That's not an option. So I guess I have to say that he was shot by Brennan. Like, technically, that is correct, although the captain is the executioner here. Okay, murder of Nunzio Pasqua. And then the Formosan woman says, yeah, I can't read Chinese, but her exclamation translates to, no, he has done nothing wrong. And then another voice in Chinese says, Miss Lim, it is too late. So the woman's name is Lim. So I'm going to go ahead and identify her. Bunlan Lim. That's her name. We still don't know the other 2 Formosans. There are It Beng Xia and Cho Tan are the other 2. We can't determine them. Then we have, as captain of this ship, etc., sentence you to death by firing line, Mr. Wolf, when you are ready. Which means that the man giving the orders is Mr. Wolf. And we do see a man in a tall stovepipe hat, clearly sort of who has just swung his arm down in a go expression. So this is Wolf. This is the man who was on the gun deck during the Kraken attack, who was pulled onto the muzzle of a lit cannon and exploded. This is who is Wolf? Who is Wolf? Christian Wolf, gunner from Austria. Correct! Well done. 3 more fates correct. Alfred Klestel, bosun, was torn apart by a terrible beast. Hok Seng Lao was shot with a gun by Henry Brennan. Christian Wolf was blasted with a cannon by a terrible beast. Fates 7, 8, and 9. Yeah, we're making progress. We're getting there. All right, let's get back to this page here. So that's Christian Wolf. Let me look at this scene. It's funny. The portrait here is showing everyone from the bottom sketch. Like, all of their faces are lit up because they're all here. I'm just gonna page over them and see if there's anyone who's highlighted that we don't know who they are. No, we have some men with taco hats. Both of the guys with taco hats that we don't know who they are yet, but nobody identifiable. All right, and we have Shaky Watch, so somebody else is dead here, and that is the wrapped up body laying on a bench below the body that's hanging of Hok Seng Lao, who's just been shot, which means this is probably the body of the murder that he confessed to committing. Buzz buzz. Our cloud is taking a leisurely tour around the deck of the ship instead of just going down and highlighting it. Alright, rewinding back to 3-1.
Hello? Who is there? Who is that? Is someone hurt? Signore Nichols, is that you? What are you doing down here?
Hello, yes. All fine here. Just, sorting some things.
Watch your step. Here, let me help you.
Alright, so we're down in a deck we haven't seen yet. This must be the cargo deck. A man who in the portrait is playing the fiddle has just been stabbed in the stomach by a taco hat man who we saw later shooting someone while holding a woman passenger. We can't get around them, but behind them we see near an open door is one of the Chinese guards. In fact, Hok Seng Lao, who's just about to be executed, is lying on the floor with a club next to his head, seemingly having been clubbed on the temple. Inside the door next to him is an ornate chest in a Chinese style. Its bottom drawer is open, and in the drawer is a glowing object, some sort of shell. Alright, who is this? How did they die? Well, we know that the murder that was confessed to was the murder of Nunzio Pasqua. And looking at the list, Nunzio Pasqua is a passenger from Italy, and this man definitely had an Italian accent. He said signor, which is the way that the subtitles spelled it was the Italian way, not the Spanish way. Or the Portuguese way. I think Portuguese also has a word that sounds like that. Nunzio Pasqua was knifed by Nichols. Edward Nichols, the second mate. So that's who this is. Taco Man. Edward Nichols has now committed 2 crimes. Okay. I'm gonna update the other one too. the unknown crew member who is shot in part 3 of this same chapters, was also shot by Nichols. And then we have poor Hokseng Lao. Poor Lao has been beamed and is sitting on the floor. I don't know how he self-confesses to this. Pretty obviously Nichols' fault. It seems to be that Nichols was attempting to steal this shell, which is in this chest here. It is literally in this freeze frame scene. It is animated, glowing. You know, even within this freeze frame, this is an extremely shiny object, extremely powerful something or other. So Nichols was attempting to carry out a theft, it looks like. Otherwise, nothing appears to be happening on the cargo deck. Lots of barrels, a couple of hammocks strung from the ceiling, a bunch of large ropes in coils, some things hanging from hooks. The stairs up to the upper deck are shut. And we have our door we can walk out of to exit the scene, and I think exit this chapter. Chapter 3, Murder. 3 deaths. No disappearances. So this is a short and relatively tidy chapter. And with that, I think that is where we're going to end our stream tonight. It's been a bit of a shorter one. We've actually made an incredible amount of progress here. We've identified 6 more fates that have been typeset, and we've made guesses at several more. Let me go back to our tracker here at the end of the book. So we now have 9 out of 60 fates. That's I can't do math. That's like, it's more than 10%. That's like 15% of the way. These things, as you probably noticed, these discoveries start to pile up on top of each other. You identify one person and that sort of cascades back. Like, oh, if that's Nichols, then that's what happened here, and now I can verify this guy, and so on and so forth. So, we'll probably be picking up speed with this next week. But until then, I'm just wandering around the ship while I talk, as you do. I have been Cello E, that is at CEL10E on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. I do Crusader Kings 2 streams, as well as Return of the Obra Dinn, and this Saturday I'm doing a very special double stream as a premiere for one of my favorite all-time RPGs, Dragon Age Origins. We will be starting that in the afternoon, probably around 1 o'clock Eastern, although keep an eye on my Twitter for confirmation there. I haven't totally decided. And then again at my normal time at around 9. So I am super excited for that. I cannot wait to play Dragon Age again. And then we will be back next week with more Crusader Kings, more Return of the Obra Dinn on Thursday, which will be the schedule going forward. So, with all of that said, thank you for watching, and don't set your ship on fire with a candle.